Welcome to CTCL Virtual Days. This session is for Juniata College. We have great representatives that will be able to provide you information and answer questions that you may have. I just want to thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just also one of the many different sessions happening, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions. This presentation is also being recorded and will be available within about a week at the same website you registered. And now I'd like to turn it over to our presenters from Juniata College.
Hey everyone, I'm Alicia Bursler. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission here at Juniata, and I'm here with Terry and Brittany. They're going to be helping us out today. We'll go through a couple slides to give you some general information, but do feel free to use that Q&A function to ask any questions that you may have that are in addition to the information we're sharing. Terry and Brittany will make sure we get those questions answered for you. All right, so here you can see a beautiful picture of our campus. We are in kind of the heart of central Pennsylvania over here on the East Coast. And we have a lot of great outdoor activities around too. So we'll talk you through some of the academic stuff, the extracurricular stuff, but also some of the fun things to do around campus as we go through a little brief introduction to Juniata. Here's an aerial view of campus. You can see most of campus in this picture from high above in the drone. But as you go toward the top of the image down to the river in town, that is our lovely little town of Huntingdon, Pennsylvania. Small town right here in the mountains of the Allegheny Mountains. And lots of awesome cafes and shops and a little movie theater with 5 screens, historic movie theater, and lots of historic places that students can hang out. So while there's a lot going on campus uphill, there's also a lot going on in town too that you can take advantage of. Here's some of those basic statistics that everybody wants to know about. So you can see we're a small institution, about 1,500 students, as a lot of CTCL schools are. But even though we're small and in the middle of Pennsylvania, you'll interact with students from all across the country and all across the world. And you'll get a lot of opportunities to interact directly with your professors. We have a lot of small classes and a lot of faculty available to interact with you. So whether it's your advisors or just a professor you're having a class with, they're very available to you to help you out and shape your experience throughout your 4 years at Juniata. We have a ton of student organizations. So if you're interested in anything from Star Wars to biology research to knitting to outdoor activities, there's generally a student group that you can meet other people who have those interests and get to know the opportunities to participate in those interests on campus and around town. And you can also create any group on your own if we don't have one. So if there's an interest that you have that's not represented, you're welcome to start that organization if it is of interest to you. We do not have social fraternities or sororities. So lots of student clubs, but no frats or sororities. One of the things we're really proud of here at Juniata, whether you're a student or a staff member or a professor, is our strong and supportive community. So we do a lot of different things right here from the admission process throughout your graduation day to really help you kind of figure out who you are and what you want to do and help you be as successful as possible. Building on those strengths and things that you bring to Juniata. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we do that here. One of the main ways, every student on campus, no matter what your POE is, which we'll talk about that, it's like a major a little bit later, has 2 advisors. So you'd have one advisor who's in your main academic area of interest to help you, choose classes, stay on schedule towards your degree, figure out, when you need to take what classes, figure out what internships would be helpful for you to help keep building your resume. But then you have a second advisor who may be a professor, but could be a different faculty or staff member across campus. And they're there as a mentor for you as well. So you kind of have a second layer of support, someone, if you're not sure how to sign up for a club, or you're not sure, who your academic advisor should be, you can chat about these things. If you're thinking about, I have an interest in science now, but maybe I like English better. You know, you can have those kind of conversations with two adults on campus who are really there with the sole purpose of guiding you and helping you through the 4 years at Juniata so that you can be your most successful self. We have a whole office of learning services as well. So in addition to your personal advisors, there's a whole office ready to help you with different challenges and situations that may arise while you're at college. It is a new situation, and it's definitely okay to ask for help. And we have a lot of ways to help you through, you know, the small things and the large things. So learning services, they provide things like academic coaching to help you with study skills and things like that. They manage accessibility and accommodations. So should you need housing or academic or learning accommodations to help you in the classroom or otherwise. They house the career development office. So if you're looking for, you know, an internship in a particular industry and aren't sure where to look, or if you're just looking for someone to take a second look at a resume because you're applying to something, career development can help you with that. There's tutoring available if you're having, you know, some challenges in one of your courses, and just also general learning strategies and study skills. So you may have heard from others that, you know, college is a big transition from high school academically, and we have a lot of ways. We kind of know what those road bumps are generally for students in that transition, and we have a lot of ways to support students in that transition. So as you come in and as you go through your academic area, lots of ways to help you be successful. Here's some of our stats that we're very proud of. So a lot of this support from your faculty, from your advisors, from your fellow students leads to a lot of success in our students. So, and of course you want to be successful in college. So hopefully this is good news for you. So we have almost all of our students graduate in 4 years or fewer. So if you do bring in transfer credits, you may be able to graduate in less than 4 years. 90% of our students are in their next step, whether that is a job, graduate school, professional school, or a national or international volunteer service like the Peace Corps within 6 months of graduation. So relatively quickly after you graduate, you're kind of shaped into your next step and get started right away with that next step in your career path. And then if you are interested in pre-medicine or any of those other pre-health areas, you may already know we have a really successful health professions program at Juniata. You may be looking at us because of that very successful health professions program. And about a 10-year average, 85% of our students are accepted to their professional medical school when they apply. So another result of our very supportive health professions advising program here at Juniata. We also have a lot of success with fellowships, like Fulbrights and Goldwater fellowships too. So if that's something you aspire to, or maybe it's something you know nothing about right now and are thinking, you know, you're looking for greater academic opportunities later, a lot of students at Juniata go on to do these fellowships. So that's something you can learn about and work toward at Juniata.
Alicia, one of our viewers asked, what is the placement rate into vet school?
I don't know the specific stats. We usually have a smaller number of students going to vet school, but probably pretty similar to our average. I would say if we have about 3 students, I would guess that 2 or all 3 of them get in. So it is a smaller program, but they are incredibly prepared for these opportunities. I do know one of the students I worked with, she just started at Ohio State's veterinary school. So I do know, if anyone's wondering, we do have at least one student at Ohio State's vet school right now. All right, here's just some examples of kind of national and international companies and organizations that our students go on to work for and study at and serve at, if you are just kind of curious. Obviously not an exhaustive list, but just to give you a sense of the wide variety of places that Juniata students end up. So, you know, if you're at CTCL, you're thinking smaller schools, maybe not as big name of schools, but these opportunities that you get with your advisors, with in the classroom, outside of the classroom, that we're able to provide for you because we are a smaller school and can really focus on you as a student, really propel students to success across the country and across the globe. So, and I'll share there, you know, that quote I have is from a post-grad survey that students completed, you know, after they graduate and are on to their next step. And I think it's really important to know that their experience at Juniata, almost every single graduate feels that it directly prepared them for their next step. So whether it was feeling really comfortable at graduate school, in a research job, working in a big company doing finance, Juniata graduates feel ready and welcome to be in these places and do feel like they're prepared to do these things. So I think that's important as you consider, your next steps after college. So we have some academic details to share with you. We do things differently at Juniata in terms of our academic program. If you've looked into us at all, you may already have heard about our acronym, and I did let it slip a little earlier, the POE, so I'm just going to give you kind of a sense of how we do academics a little bit differently. So one thing that is really big at Juniata is interdisciplinarity and flexibility. So we have something called the POE, which we'll go into a little bit more detail with, but really what that means is it's just a bit more flexible and very much more student-centered than your traditional major or minor system at a larger school, at a different school. So you can choose one thing and stick to that, but as you can see from this diagram here, we kind of have things clustered by general topic, recognizing that a lot of areas of study are definitely interconnected. They're not existing in silos, and you get to explore all of these areas of interest to you if you have diverse interests, but also through the way the curriculum is set up, you will kind of have a very intentional way of seeing the connections between not only your area of interest, but also the other areas of interest and how they interact, not only in college and academia, but also to apply after you graduate and see how these different areas interact in the real world. So you're very prepared for those sorts of team situations and where you're going to work on, really big scale problems that aren't just in bio or not just in mathematics or not just in English. So you can choose one of those areas and follow the POE kind of more rigidly. If you do like more structure, you're perfectly welcome to do that. And we do have designated POEs that kind of, give you more of a structured path. But you can also combine POEs, kind of like a double major. You can do kind of what's a minor. You can do a secondary emphasis if there's another area you'd like to explore. But you can also create your own program of emphasis with the classwork that we have offered. So this list here, you can see some examples of programs that you won't see on the list on the website or on the Common App, but are programs that students have worked with their advisors to craft from the coursework we have offered. So animal behavior within the environmental science and biology departments, so taking some specific classes in there. Web design and business writing, combining a lot of areas of integrated media arts, communications, and professional writing together to create a very intentional program. Or even something like health administration with the business department and the pre-health department. So if you don't see something on the list of programs that you're interested in, that does not necessarily mean you can't do it at Juniata, and it may be something that your advisors can work with you to create based on your interests and then your career and postgraduate goals.
Alicia, I just want to interrupt to let our audience know that as questions compile, we'll address those questions at the end of your presentation. Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you. All right, now in addition to the coursework in your POE and the learning you'll do in the classroom, there are kind of 4 main ways that Juniata students really intentionally apply what they've learned. So I'm just going to run through these 4. There are a lot of details on these slides, but also feel free to ask if you have specific questions because these are very dynamic experiences. So they're kind of hard to represent just on a slide. So undergraduate research is a big one, and you may think of it in terms of biology and chemistry and the natural sciences, but students across disciplines complete undergraduate research with a mentor like a professor here at Juniata. So, it could be doing a historical study on a local, trolley line or things like that. So don't just think you have to be a natural sciences student to do research. And whether you are, bio, history, English, social sciences of different areas, you will be able to get to do research and you also get to present on the research you've done, which is key, especially if you're going to graduate school. It's a key skill that you'll be expected to use throughout your career. You can see our students present right on campus at our Liberal Arts Symposium, which is kind of a giant fair in the spring where all students are presenting things they've learned and created throughout the year. But even so far as to present nationally at the National Council for Undergraduate Research too. So you can actually travel and present on your research to people from all across the country, from all sorts of institutions. And you can start doing this as early as the second semester of your freshman year if you're so inclined. Internships, a very big part of a lot of students' experiences and their pathway to their career. This map, I think, does a good job of representing that our students take internships all across the country. So it might be something you do, at home over the summer, stay at home and work locally. It might be something you do during the semester at Juniata for credit. We have some for credit internship opportunities. Or it may be something that you go to a completely new place because there's an opportunity there that you really can't pass up. So you could be in Manhattan, in Denver, Colorado, or right here in Huntington, Pennsylvania. And we do have some funding as well. So if you do get an internship that's far from home or potentially unpaid, which is the case in some areas of study sometimes, we have a super internship fund that you can get some funding from the Career Development Office to help you be able to participate in that experience. Study abroad and study away is also really big at Juniata. About half of our students participate in at least one experience, and some students do multiple. So this is something that if you are really thinking about studying abroad as part of your college experience, Juniata is a really good place to do that. We really work with you from the beginning to fit it in academically, to fit it in calendar-wise, and to help you attain an experience that you're really excited about and will also complement kind of your career and academic goals. So they can be long-term, your more traditional that you might think of, where you go for a whole semester or a whole year abroad, or it could be a short-term program hosted by one of our professors, either in over the winter break term or right after classes end in the spring and into the summer. So a 3 to 7 week trip, not quite as long as a semester, but still a great experience to go somewhere new and study a different topic. And then finally, community engaged learning is a really big part of the Juniata curriculum. It's actually built into your kind of core curriculum that everybody takes. Everyone will do a connections course based in our community. You'll see they're tied to courses here. There are a couple examples in different areas of study, from world languages to environmental science. Generally, you'll be working directly with a community partner. And this is a little bit more than just kind of community service that you may think of traditionally. These are really intentional projects that are developed over time to meet a need in the community and to be a sustainable solution to meet that need. So a lot of these projects are ongoing, and students help every single semester and every year to help some of these community partners fill gaps that they have and help them be more successful. So now some of the more fun stuff, though I won't deny that academics can be fun, especially at Juniata. Talk a little bit about athletics and some of our traditions. So we are Division III, as a lot of CTCL schools are. So academics first, definitely a student athlete, but still the opportunity to remain competitive and still have that team component to your experience. So we have 23 varsity sports. We have a lot of success, especially in volleyball. Men's and women's volleyball historically are some of our most successful teams. And it's kind of a great partnership. Your professors, your coaches, your advisors all kind of work with you. You know, you will travel a little bit regionally generally, but everybody knows that you're here to be an athlete first, or a student first, and then an athlete. And sometimes the coaches too will have kind of mini competitions of the GPAs of their team. So they do take pride in having you be a successful student as well as a successful athlete. Some of our traditions, you may have heard about these. These are some of our most excited times on campus. So you can see we have storming of the arch up in the corner. This is when you can decide to race with the rugby team and try to break through the cloister arch, which is an archway under one of our dorm buildings. So if you are so inclined to be brave, you can try your hand at that. We have Madrigal there on the right, which is a big dinner dance in the fall, kind of culminates the fall semester. The faculty and staff will serve you a delicious dinner. And leading up to Madrigal, maybe the more kind of exciting part of it for students, there's a whole competition to get your table at Madrigal called tenting, where students literally camp out in tents on the quad for the week before tickets go on sale. And you do all sorts of fun competitions and have roll calls and things like that to get points to be head tent. And if you are head tent, you get to get the first tickets to Madrigal. And almost always the students will choose the 5 golden rings table, which is front and center, and gets to shout as loud as possible when we sing that favorite Christmas carol. So you can look forward to camping out in the cold, but then having the fame of being at the 5 golden rings table at Madrigal. And then that little lobster balloon down there, one of our other fall traditions is Lobster Fest. It's a big feast on the quad where you have lobster and steak, but it's also our big activities fair. So when I mentioned those over 100 organizations that you can be a part of, each club on campus will have a little stand set up and you can learn about what they do and try out some of, usually an activity or something related to that club and sign up. So right at the beginning of your fall semester, especially as a first year, it's a great way to get connected with students and also kind of figure out what you might want to be a part of in addition to academics. And there are some others too. We have a lot throughout the year, and in the spring, Liberal Arts Symposium is one of those, but just know that there are a lot of fun ways the community comes together as a whole. So, it's not just for students, faculty, and staff participate in a variety of ways. So it's also a really cool way to get to know your professors and other people at the college well as well. Now we'll have some of the kind of logistical stuff. Terry, were there any questions you think we should address before we get into the nuts and bolts?
Yes, I believe so. One of the questions is, in Lauren Pope's last edition of Colleges That Change Lives, it stated that 100% of students applied to physical therapy programs and were accepted. Is that true? So
I believe that's still true. Yeah, we usually have, similar to vet school, it's usually 2 to 3, I would say, per year, maybe 5 max. And because, the PT requirements are pretty stringent academically, but as long as those students have been following their advisor's guidance, usually by the time they apply, they're well suited to apply. And I would guess, if not 100%, very close to that.
Yeah, Alicia's correct in that, she provided sort of a 10-year average across all health professions. When you look at what I typically call the allied health professions like physical therapy and occupational therapy and those areas, like Alicia said, there's usually a spattering of students interested in those areas. So our placement rates, and this is true of vet school as well, our placement rates tend to be at 100% because we are working with, on average, probably 2 to 4 students in a graduating class.
Every year, our health professions director puts out an annual report. This year's report's on the class of 18-19, that admission year rate. And for that year, there was 100% acceptance rate into physical therapy. And for veterinary, it was 80%. So those are the statistics for those particular programs for that year.
And one other question is, how inclusive and accessible is Juniata? So I think this is an opportune moment. You talked about Quest, but to talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity at Juniata.
Yeah, so there are actually a lot of different ways that Juniata, especially over the last, I would say, 5 years, has really focused intentionally on being even better at inclusion, both in terms of accessibility, but also in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have a vice president position for the Dean of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion. She left us recently, but we immediately filled that with an interim director. So we have Reggie Onino filling in that role now. So we didn't have any gap in that. So that's kind of an institutional way to have someone whose sole role is dedicated to kind of shaping, how we don't just get more diverse, but have equity and inclusion across campus, from students to staff to faculty as well. So they actually recently developed a Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council over the summer that's going to be institutionalized through the fall. So it'll be people nominated across campus to kind of have an even larger group of people who are monitoring student concerns, things happening, in the nation, and adapting, programs at Juniata, staffing at Juniata, resources at Juniata to help be very responsive in real time to student needs and concerns. So that's a newer thing that has happened. In terms of accessibility, we have a director of student accessibility services specifically in that learning services department. So Patty Klug kind of ensures that across campus, from building construction to learning accommodations in the classroom to housing accommodations and res life. You would work with her. She kind of oversees that generally, but if you have specific concerns, she's also available to work with you directly to make sure that you have any sort of accommodation that you need, that you can have your best experience at Juniata. So yeah.
Thank you, Alicia. I think you answered those questions great. Now you can move on to the admission process.
Thanks, Terry. So some of the nuts and bolts that you may want to pay attention to, especially if there are seniors listening in. If you're a junior, definitely take note just so you can kind of start planning ahead and knowing kind of when to expect different things. So we are on 2 different applications here at Juniata, the Coalition application and the Common application. Both are general applications that you can fill out one time and apply to a variety of schools through. So that should make that a little bit easier for you. And we don't have a fee on either application, so no need to pay to apply to Juniata College. You'll see some of our deadlines there, so you can apply by the earliest deadline of November 15th, which is early decision, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second, or you have really the whole way through your senior spring through March 15th. If you are ready to decide early and know that Juniata would be the one place you would attend if you got in, early decision could be the round for you. That's our only binding round. So if you're set on the school and if as long as the finances work out, you're committing basically when you apply to attending Juniata. If you're not super ready to commit that early but are really ready to apply and want to get your decisions back sooner, that's when those 2 middle early action rounds can come into play. So if you have everything together, you're ready to apply, you want a decision a little bit earlier, but you're not quite ready to commit upon applying, apply early action, and you will get a decision back a little sooner. Here's some of the requirements, kind of the basic requirements to apply. So the general application with all your demographic pieces, all of that kind of standard stuff. You'll have to have your high school or college transcript sent if you're a transfer student, or if you have dual enrollment credits, feel free to have your college transcript sent as well, directly from your high school. You have to complete 1 essay. So both the Common App and Coalition have kind of a list of standard essays. You choose one of those, and that's all you need to write to apply to Juniata. We do not have any supplemental essays. And then you need 1 recommendation from a core academic teacher or a counselor. So English, science, social studies, math teacher or a counselor. You're welcome to send 2 or 3 letters if there is another person you think knows you well that would do well to write about you as well, but at least 1 for your application to be complete. And then in terms of standardized tests, we are test optional at Juniata. We have been for many years. So if you took the SAT or ACT, if you were able to do that, if you feel good about your score, if you think that's important to your application, feel free to send those to us. But if you did not get to take it or do not feel good about your score, you do not have to send those test scores. You can waive that and apply test optional. Either way, you're still eligible for merit scholarships, and know that whether you submit your scores or not, your application is reviewed first and foremost based on your academic performance in high school and your community contributions. The SAT or ACT score is never the most important part of your application. So just one piece of the puzzle. We have a bunch of merit scholarships that are available. Your application for admission is your scholarship application right off the bat. So there's no separate academic scholarship application. And there are some specific to top academics. There are some specific to language and study abroad interest. And we also have the Juniata Community Scholarship. So if you do know an alum or the parent of a current student, ask them about the JCS scholarship, and they will be able to nominate you, and you can receive $1,000 a year just for them thinking that you'd be a great fit for Juniata. And then in addition to the merit aid, there are also opportunities for need-based aid. So you would get your merit scholarship right away. If you're accepted, you'd know what that amount is and what that scholarship is. But if you're also looking for need-based aid, you need to file the FAFSA. It's going live October 1st for seniors this year. It's the only form you need to fill out for need-based aid at Juniata. Some schools require the CSS profile. Ignore that, just the FAFSA for us. And then you'll get a separate letter from our financial planning office with any additional scholarships and grants from us, potentially state and federal grants, federal student loans, federal work study would all be listed on there in addition to your merit scholarship. We do have a 4-year conditional guarantee, so as long as you follow your advisor's advice and stay on track, if you're not eligible to graduate in 4 years, you won't pay any additional money for those additional credits. And we also stack outside scholarships. So if you get something from your school, a church group, anything like that, it's in addition to Juniata aid. We do not take away Juniata aid and replace it with those outside scholarships. So especially if you're a senior this year, look for those opportunities, apply early, apply often, because it can only help take care of some of your cost to you. All right, any other questions about the nuts and bolts or anything? Okay, well, I'll just leave some of this information here. We are glad that you were with us today for this overview. We do have a lot of opportunities, virtual mostly at this time, but for you to explore more and explore things in a little more depth. We have some guided virtual tours that you can register for. All of these events you can register for at that website, juniata.edu/visit. If you want to get to know some of our students, I'd recommend the guided virtual tour. You get our digital tour, but our student tour guides actually talk you through it live, so they can talk about their experience, answer your questions, all of that sort of thing. If you'd like to meet one-on-one with your admission counselor, one of us and others in our staff, to ask more specific questions, perhaps about health professions, things like that, you can register for a counselor conversation, and we can meet with you one-on-one to answer a lot of those more specific questions. We also have department days, which are specific to academic interests, so check those out if you'd really like to explore, the natural science more, the social sciences more, and you can meet with a lot of professors and students during those times. And we're also offering limited on-campus visits for seniors. So if you are a senior and you're considering Juniata, you can see some of our visit safety and health protocols at the website, and you may be able to visit us in real life in person too. So definitely check those out if you're a senior and you haven't gotten to visit our campus yet. I will leave my contact information up there. Feel free to put any more questions in the Q&A if you'd like, but also feel free to text or send me an email afterward if there's something you want to connect with, or if you want to learn more about some of those visit opportunities. Anything from Terry or Brittany?
I'd just like to add that all of our viewers, if you are receiving information from Juniata via email, that I urge you to open your email from Juniata. I believe that the information we send is very accurate and truly will give you some sort of understanding of the academic and social culture at Juniata. And this is pretty much the way we are communicating with those students who express interest in us. So pay attention to your email from Juniata. I think you're going to love what you read and love what you see.
I'll just follow up with a quick, again, shout out to all of the virtual opportunities that we're offering. I coordinate a lot of our events, and we're excited to be able to offer both some limited in-person visits for students. So if you can make it to see us, we'd love to see you. But if not, we're really excited to offer a plethora of opportunities to engage with you. And then I would also add, we are doing virtual high school visits. So as Terry said, check your email. If we're visiting your high school, you should get some information about that. And we love to connect with you again, maybe a little bit more one-on-one in high school visits. So thank you for joining us today.
Great. Well, just want to thank the panelists for their time and sharing such great information in regards to Juniata College. Just want to also thank you for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. And also, this was just one of the many sessions being hosted, so be sure to sign up for any additional sessions. In about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recordings as well as any other recordings that you've been able to attend. So thank you for your time, and thank you to the panelists. Have a great day.